Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or simply hoping to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psychreg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Berney Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Today we're going to shift focus a little bit from social media and all of that to talk a little bit about parenting. But we're going to talk about some pretty atrocious parenting practices.
I said I was going to be, what'd you call me yesterday?
You said you were going to be a curmudgeon.
I said I was going to be a curmudgeon.
I said cranky.
Cranky, that I was going to be cranky again today. I was cranky yesterday because we talked about social media and cell phones and how it interferes with my life and the people in my life. And I said I'm going to be cranky today, and I'm cranky today because of this topic, which is, it's called Haircuts and Walkouts, the bad side of parental control. This is another topic that heats up my blood.
And we've talked about it in a couple of different contexts before. I think we've had a couple of podcasts about it in the past, and we've written about it in our
we write about
column
this in our book.
In our
columns
book.
About it.
But this is to me, this is an extremely frustrating aspect of parenting that raises its ugly head several times a year. When some new report comes out, some new parent does something. A couple of years ago, there was the video that came out of the Texas judge who was spanking his teenage daughter, and while his wife was in the background, telling the daughter to take it like a woman, and there was
submit.
Yeah, and the reports from of parents who make their kids stand out on the side of the road with signs that say I lie, or I cheat, and those kinds of things, and
or the guy who shot his daughter's computer in the YouTube of his taking out his gun and shooting his daughter's computer. Right.
And the guy who with it was either his stepson or he was sort of a mentor to the child, and cut his hair in very unusual way, and recorded himself talking to the kid, kind of putting the kid down. You want to be a player, you want to do this, and meanwhile this is like a second or third grade kid. Cuts his hair and makes him run outside with bags of sand, and so I think that while those things are horrific, in my opinion, we'll get to it in just a second, but I think what's even worse is the response from other parents that say, we need more of that. We need more parents like that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That you see these things, you see the kid out with the sign, I'm a liar, I didn't do my chores, I stole money, and everybody applauds. Right. Or the guy shoots his daughter's computer, say, by God, that's what we need. We need more of that tough love. This guy's on the right track. And so we applaud these sorts of high-profile parenting, approaches to parenting. Last week, there was a news story about the family in Colorado, or
I think it's California. With the 13 kids?
With the 13 kids.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
And everybody was horrified by that. The line between the kind of parenting you were just talking about, the line between that and what those parents did is so thin that most of us are going to cross it. If you're going to do authoritarian parenting, you're going to do authoritarian parenting. And the line between cutting your kid's hair and ridiculing him in public, making him go to school looking stupid, and what those parents did is indistinguishable. There is no line between those two things.
I think that the only line that's there is that one family kept it hidden.
That's right.
And the other family recorded it and put it on public. And so we saw the veil was lifted
Right.
in this hidden example,
Right.
and so it was atrocious because, oh my gosh, how could they do
Right.
all of that in behind closed doors, versus, oh, here's some people who are doing it and they're doing it in public and they're recording it and posting it on online and everything. I think that's the only difference.
Right. Right.
And
I think that's a good point.
and so in this article, Paula White is the author, and it's from Psychology Today, and she's talking about, she uses a couple of examples,
Which are appropriate today because this is what happens.
right.
And the
Right.
first one is
The first one is about a haircut.
this is such a sad story. The mother
The mother gave the girl highlights in her hair.
for a birthday present.
Right.
Right.
The father didn't like it,
Right.
so he chops her hair up. And,
Did he cut her hair or did he have somebody else cut it? But it was a mess.
yeah, I think that the father did it, but he cut it. She undoubtedly had long hair that went beyond her, below her shoulders, and he cut it to about about an
inch
inch.
or two long.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
the humiliation of that for a teenage girl, and the other issue of the loss of autonomy. We want, you and I have daughters. We want our daughters to care for their bodies, to care about their bodies, and that it is their body. This is your body,
Right.
okay? And nobody can violate that. And that's what we teach and we teach and we teach. And here's this father who violates that, okay, by this authoritarian kind of discipline that he felt was
Right.
appropriate. But what he took from his daughter.
Yeah, it's terrible. The second example she uses is the mother who walked away from her son on National Signing Day. He's a star athlete, I suppose.
He's a high school athlete. He's a 5-star athlete in high school.
And he was signing for...
And National Signing Day is a big deal.
Right.
I mean, schools have celebrations that day, and the news media is there, and everybody's around because here's a standout high school athlete who's making this this important decision about where he's going to go to. He or she is going to go to college.
Right.
Okay. And here you are at the table with your mother. The cameras are rolling.
And he says, I'm going to go with my heart. And he chooses a school, and the mother is appalled.
The mother
gets up and walks out.
Gets up and walks away.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest days of his life. And she just rips the heart out of it, okay, because she was displeased with his choice.
Right. So again, these are just examples, and there are loads of examples of this type of authoritarian type of parenting.
Right. And authoritarian parenting is, I'm the boss, we're going to do this my way, by gosh, and there's little warmth,
Right.
There's little affection, it's, I'm the boss and we're going to do this my way.
Right.
Okay, that's authoritarian parenting.
Right. Before we started recording this, I said we had to be careful because there's a lot that could be said about these issues, and so I'm being cautious because there's so much that I would love to say that we've talked about on other podcasts, granted, but the lack of privacy, the removal of autonomy, the removal of agency. We want our kids to develop a sense of self and a sense of confidence and a sense of control over themselves so that they, don't succumb to peer pressure and they can make decisions on their own. Yet we engage in parenting practices that remove all of that.
You strip it from them. We want them to regulate their own behavior. We want them to follow the rules whether we're there or not.
Right.
Just because I'm not around doesn't mean it's okay to drink or smoke weed or whatever.
Right.
And we teach and we teach and we teach our kids. And yet, so many of our parenting practices remove that from them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because no, you're going to do what I say.
Right.
That's not self-regulation.
Right. That's not giving them the opportunity to exercise what you're hoping that they'll learn.
And I am going to punish you if you don't meet my expectations.
Right.
I'm going to punish you. You have to be very careful with that because that's conditional. That also can be translated as, okay, so your affection is conditional.
Right.
If I do exactly as you tell me to do, then I get your love. But if I make a mistake or if I fall short, I don't get it.
Right.
You're going to withdraw it. because I make a mistake.
And the mixed messages, like with the girl with her haircut, mom was obviously okay with it.
Right.
But dad was the one who,
Yeah, and I don't know whether these parents are together or not. Whether they were divorced and living separately or something. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, it does not matter whether, they
but
should.
The mixed messages and the absence of the opportunity to be autonomous and to have agency and to have some intrinsic sense of control of one's life. That's,
in psychology, we have a thing called object relations.
Right.
And I always think about that authoritarian parenting says you're an object.
Right.
The underlying message is you're an object. I can do whatever I want to do to you.
Right.
We are going to do this my way. Yeah. You're simply an object in my life, and it's my job to do this, and I'm going to do it to you. And not with you. I'm going to do it to you.
And parents say that.
Yeah.
The kids want to, how many times have you talked to a teenager who wants to close their bedroom door, and the parents are like, no, that's my door. That's my room.
Right.
I pay the bills here. That's anything in there is mine. I mean, you're completely taking away their identity
and ability to learn how to manage it themselves.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so, what do you think is going to happen when they are 18 and they're going off to college, or they move out and they're living on their own, and then they start making all these really bad decisions? Well,
and we're not saying you just let them do whatever.
Right.
That's not what we're saying at all. You have to have structure. You have to have boundaries. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful about things like autonomy and turning your kids into objects and being this. We're going to talk about this later, but parents have this feeling that it's their job to. And if they don't do their job, that they've somehow failed, or they're going to be humiliated by their kids' behaviors, and that really isn't necessary. But I mean, it's a topic for another day. But we have to stop short of treating our kids like objects. Yeah. Okay, that's, I think, the first message here.
Yeah, yeah. So, and she talks about a path to a better future.
Right.
And she talks about, active listening, engaging and interacting from the perspective of allowing some of that autonomy, allowing some of that learning to happen.
That's right.
Which we've talked about in a lot of different podcasts.
Right. Because what these things do, the haircut and walking away and so many things, putting up signs and putting kids on the street with signs and all that, it's a withdrawal of our affection. Right. One of the things that we advocate parents, is warmth and affection. Those are the two things we want you to be as a parent. We want you to be warm, and we want you to be affectionate. When you do these kind of harsh haircuts and public humiliations, you're withdrawing warmth and affection. Right. There's nothing warm and affection about that. Right. And the other thing that it does is it induces guilt. We want our kids to feel guilty. Right. You don't want to do that to your children. I mean, there are better ways to accomplish the same thing. Is what we're saying. Well, we're not saying don't. We're saying do it a different way.
Well, you want, and there's a fine line here, but you want them to feel guilty, perhaps. You want them to feel responsible. But you want them to feel that based upon their own understanding of things, not because you said you should feel guilty about this.
That's right. I'm imposing guilt on you.
Right.
You must feel guilty.
Right.
Or you should feel guilty.
Right. And so, just as an example, another way that father could have handled it, instead of cutting her hair really short, he could say, well, I really would have liked to have been part of the conversation.
That's right.
About how you're going to do your hair, because that's a pretty significant difference. And have a conversation about why she feels as though she can't check with him first or talk with him about something first, so he has, some involvement in her decision making.
Yeah, many times we've talked about that when you lash out at your children, it's really because they've hurt your feelings.
Right.
And if this dad had said, look, when you make a decision like this, I would appreciate being you hurt my feelings.
Right.
You made a decision, an important decision. Now, was it life-changing? No. Was it temporary? Yes. Was there any permanent harm done? No. This is all going to grow out.
Yeah.
I mean, your hair's going to grow but honey, when you make these kind of decisions, I'd just like to be part of the decision-making process, because it hurt my feelings that you made because she's going to make decisions about body piercings and alcohol and drugs and staying out late. And she's going to be making other decisions of consequence that dad should be a part of.
Right.
Okay. But that's the lesson you want to teach
Right.
is you hurt my feel. I'm not angry at your hair. My feelings were hurt that you omitted me from the decision.
Right.
I don't know what I would have said. I may have said, yeah, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I just would like to be part of the decision.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's where we fail our children.
Yeah.
You know, and that would have been a learning opportunity because then the girl says, geez, my dad cares enough
Yeah.
about my hair.
And then any guilt that she feels would be guilt that she feels about for
That's
herself.
right. That's right.
You know, not
That-
because it's being imposed on
That this
her.
is an important person in my life and I left him out of this decision.
Right.
That's her own guilt. Okay.
Right.
That teaches a lesson.
Right.
You know, not imposed.
Right. So
And leave out the public humiliation.
don't get me started on that. You're making me cranky.
I said I was going to be cranky today.
All right. Well, that's it for today.
No, it isn't. I have more to say.
Oh, do you?
Maybe, yeah. This is another example of, because these are both about teenagers. Mm-hmm. When we move
These
from...
are both.
The kids in this were
Oh,
teenagers,
yes.
okay? And the lesson here is that we want to move from attachment parenting to detachment parenting.
Okay. Yeah.
And instead of these parents continuing to rule over these kids, they should be giving them
Yeah.
some of the control.
Right.
Okay. And you make that by, it should be a warm relationship. You have to do active listening. Okay. And it has to be mutual respect. That's the direction you should be moving when your kids become teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another article that we're going to talk about sometime in the future. And the psychologist talks about the collaborative relationship.
Right.
You know, when you get to be a teenager, you mentioned earlier about the dad spanking a
Yeah.
teenage daughter.
Right.
You don't spank a teenage daughter.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I don't even know where to begin with that one.
Right.
But I
Right.
mean, that's like teaching her to be an abused spouse. You know,
Right.
it's okay. I'm a man.
And with
so
with the mom saying,
take it like a girl. Or
Woman.
something. Take it like a woman. You know, like
Yeah.
this is your role. Whoever, you know, and when you get married, this is
Yeah.
what it's going to be like. You
Yeah.
know, because that's how it is. And so we don't. We should be moving when kids are teenagers in a very different direction toward detachment parenting. Because after all, these kids are going to leave when they're 18,
Right.
and we want them to be able to self-regulate and make good decisions, and without us being around.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah.
You also have to teach that.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely.
Be careful with your children, please.
Is that it?
I could go on and on, but I won't.
Now that's
What
it
day
for
is it today?
Until next time, stay happy.
I think I'm in trouble.
No, you're not. It's Thursday. This podcast is going
Today's
on
Thursday.
Yes.
Today's Wednesday. It's going to be broadcast Thursday.
Today-
That's why I asked.
Today's Tuesday,
And it's going to be on Wednesday.
and we're posting this on Thursday.
Good. Okay. Oh, no, I knew that. Okay.
If you had your phone, it would keep you. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid. Thanks for sharing this episode of the Mental Breakdown and Psychreg podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you will find all of our previous podcasts and much more. We would be honored if you would become a patron through patreon.com, where any donation you can manage will go to the development and creation of more content. Just visit patreon.com/thementalbreakdown for more information. Thanks again for listening. Have an awesome day, and we look forward to being back in your feed tomorrow morning.